Hey guys, this is Bix Weir. I have just gotten off the phone with Clif High. We did an interview about the coronavirus and its ramifications on the timeline. I am posting this first to the private section, and then right away I'm going to post it to the public. Cliff is adamant that this is the real deal, and we will be dealing with this for a long, long time. I trust Cliff, and what he says makes sense, and it was in his data. But for the timeline article and post, which is this, I'm going to do it in two parts. The first part is the interview with Cliff, and you can tell how emotional he gets at the end, that he sees what's coming as far as humanity is absolutely screwed, but will we recover type of thing. Same thing he said in the last year on September at the Litecoin Summit, the Road to Roota party. We did the video, and I had asked him back then. He had said, humanity may not survive. I said, well, do you think humanity will survive? And he said, at the time, he said, to be determined. And it threw me for a loop. I'm like, what are you talking about? And now we see this potential for, you can see how humanity might end. He doesn't think all of humanity will end, and it is an issue that we're going to have to deal with for years. 3 to 5 years is what he said. I'm going to play the interview now, but also part two is the Road to Roota take. What are cryptos going to do? What is gold and silver going to do? What are the exchanges going to do? How will this play out? Is there a way out of it? And that's part two of the timeline discussion, which will be on the Private Road and Patreon Plus. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, first of all, say thank you to Clif High for coming on with us. And I did talk to him after this interview because it ended abruptly. I did talk to him afterwards. He is okay. He is still working his ass off to prepare for what is coming down the pike. So, here we go. And we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Clif High on for an emergency discussion. Basically, the reason I want to talk to Cliff so badly right now is, I'm going through all these mental gymnastics, all the scenarios. What can we do if this happens, this happens, this happens? Cliff's been on Twitter. I think he's running out of Twitter space if they have a maximum amount of tweets you can send. Cliff has literally, he's raised the red flag of warning to everybody, and so everybody should be thinking and acting as if this is a worst case scenario. But I wanted to get them all also because I'm working on my timeline, and the financial thing is kind of playing out. And I'm like, wait a minute, everything could get disrupted by what's going on with lockdowns and, school closings. I mean, it'll start probably around here with school closings. Once one or two kids get it, everybody's going to grab their kids.
Already happened in Washington State. We've got high schools closed in Bothell. We've got 2 new high school age. They're not saying high school age students. They say attendees at schools or something, right? But 2 high school age students not in Bothell who have tested for it are self-isolating. One got ill, went to the school, was told by the nurse to go home. So he was there for some hours before he started getting really, really, really ill. So it's everywhere. So, and the schools around here are closing. The Bothell school, they close every day. So it has, because they're thinking that it is limited to the humans, okay? They are not taking into account that the stuff is on all of the surfaces in that building and will exist for 9 days. And then every day they open it up again and get it reinfected, it's 9 further days, bare minimum. Now, bare minimum, there's some stuff on the deep web that suggests this is really, really, really nasty protein with engineered capacity for long duration encapsulation. Okay, that was a new word that's come up, right? So I was always afraid of a bioweapon that would be based on biotin, which is the stuff that surrounds mushrooms, spores, okay? It's virtually impenetrable. Look at the problems they had decontaminating the anthrax, and that is a weak biotin form. And so I thought if anybody had ever engineered a biotin form into a virus, we would be really, really, really screwed because we'd never be able to kill it. Even fire won't necessarily kill something encased in biotin. This, though, the virus here is vulnerable. It has many weak points. One of them does not appear to be the duration on surfaces. The encapsulation is saying as long as it's a moist room and as long as there is no UV penetration to the place where the protein is, there's nothing that's going to disrupt it. So if it doesn't dry out and if it doesn't get irradiated with UV radiation, it won't break apart on a surface. All right. So
what about insects and obviously mosquitoes? But what about any insect that gets it on its legs and all of a sudden flying around lands on your skin? And
okay, now here's the thing about this though. All right, so viruses don't jump from species to species as a rule. They do mutate, but the odds are very different, or the odds are extremely small for an effective mutation to show up in a virus. So what kills the seasonal flu every year is the stuff is continually mutating inside you, but 1,000 or 100% of all those mutations are weaker than the version that got you infected. Mm-hmm. And so they don't reinfect you, they die off, and you've got an antibody that is greater than all of those mutations. In this, we don't develop antibodies, so we will never have a vaccine. We have to bear that in mind, that we'll have to have some other approach. This virus is, it actually appears to be stable, does not appear to be prone to mutations. Again, more indications of it being engineered. Mm-hmm. But that also is a good thing because at least if it is stable in its weirdness, we can learn all about it and then not be subjected to mutations that would make us have to relearn all of that, right? And here's some interesting things about this virus. It has 4 signatures in its envelope. It has the coronavirus, which is the virus that affects pigs, chickens, dogs, humans, cats, basically any mammal with an advanced or advancing vagus nervous system, okay? It does not affect amphibians, doesn't affect lizards, that kind of a thing, right? This coronavirus, our COVID-19 has coronavirus as its core envelope, mm-hmm. but it won't go to dogs. The rarity of that is going to be extremely small. They won't ever get sick from it, okay? This virus has 3 other signatures in the envelope in which that protein exists. Those 3 signatures are what are fooling our bodies and why we don't get antibodies. So follow me on this, okay? So the virus comes along and it globs onto your cell, all right? So obviously, part of that virus is sticking to the cell itself. Mm-hmm. That is how your body figures out the shape of the virus and makes what is known as an immunoresponse protein, an antibody, okay? So it's making the antibody based on the shape that it's feeling, the receptors that are being hooked into and so on. This virus, though, is presenting a coronavirus envelope to your body with either an HIV inclusion or a MERS inclusion or a SARS inclusion. But not all 3 will be presented to your body at the same time. So your body, if it gets hit with the side of that virus envelope that has the HIV inclusion, is going to make an immunoprotein that is specific to the virus shape with the HIV inclusion.
It's like a super bioweapon.
Correct. But if one of the other 2 happen to hit it the next time, it will have no immunoresponse to the MERS or the SARS that are in that same coronavirus envelope. So it's engineered, okay? And anybody that comes on up and is denying that kind of to me, if they've got a hard mask, I'm going to kick them in the nuts. Otherwise, I'm going to just smack them in the face and go on because I can't waste my time with these fuckers because they're dead. I mean, I hate to say it right now, but if Joe doesn't change his attitude, he and all of his people are going to die. He and his entire family are going to die from this.
You know, I was, you know, I've been watching this stuff, and I mean, yeah, there are some fake videos out there, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
Correct.
And it's kind of like the double head fake type of thing. I think something like that going on to say, oh, because this one video was faked means it's not real. The whole thing's not. It is real.
Right.
It is, there's no doubt.
And the fakery is easily explained. Okay. 100% of all videos made by foreign journalists in country in China have to have a supervisor there. They have to be scripted before they're made. So they're all faked if they're coming out of any kind of a journalist that has an official connection to CCP at any time. And those are what Joe is keying on. Yeah, of course they're scripted. Of course it looks faked because the journal is trying to get some information through the filter of the Chinese party. But if you go look at the ones, I saw videos last night. I think some of them are on the regular web now, but I saw one video where this guy is walking through. He's got a heavy duty mask on. He's wearing swimming goggles. He's got his ears plugged up, and he's got this little tiny, I guess, glued to his face thing for a microphone to go into his mouth. And he's walking along with a GoPro camera in a building in Wuhan, and he's not supposed to be out there. This guy is really brave. If they caught him, they would probably haul him off or shoot him dead. But he was walking around with a GoPro type camera in this building, and there were 104 apartments. Only one is still occupied. It was 100% maxed out before the virus. So 103 families are no longer in that building.
So they either left town beforehand or went to the hospital, never came back, or maybe still in there and just not alive.
No, because of the nature of it. No, he walks around the building and there's only one apartment that's got any light on it. Oh, really? The whole building has electricity. So, and he says the reason he went to that building was because he lives across the street and down a ways, and he's been filming the removal squads going into that building. Yeah. And these are people in inadequate PPE suits, yeah. You know, the Tyvek suits that are going to get exposed, but they're in there hauling out bodies. So go ahead.
So I hope my audience now sees, and you got to follow Clif's Twitter to get, you know, you can get all the background. Clif's done interviews, all that. You can get all that background. I want you to all say yes. Come to the conclusion, yes, this is the real deal. What I want to talk about is not that whether or not, because there's plenty of proof that it's a real deal.
Who cares? What do we do? Yeah,
what do we do? And, you know, this was going to be part of my timeline type of thing. Now, for the financial system, and this is, that's the other thing that Joe is not thinking about is, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, even if it is fake or not. The financial system's broken. The supply chain is broken. The banks are not going to be functioning after the first quarter when they report their earnings because no one's paying their bills. So even if you can't get your head around a pandemic bioweapon having problems for years, you better get your head around the financial system has stopped. There's no amount of money you can print that can put stuff on the shelves.
Correct. And so I was talking to a guy in China who works as a senior manager in a bicycle tire factory. Okay, that's what they make, all different kinds of bicycle tires. And I happened to connect to him through the deep web. He very studied individual in English, young kid. I think he's probably in his early 20s. Hoped to travel for his company and do sales things to America. Wanted to travel and shit, and he's really freaked out. They've opened his factory 4 times since they closed it. Every time they open it up, he goes through the same routine. He knows now that he has to show up because he's a manager, and if he doesn't get to keep his job. And he's really scared. He says he sweats the whole time he's there, and it freaks him out because he's afraid someone will think he has a fever, but it's just fear. I won't go into all the details. They opened it up 4 times. Every single time, they would come up against the fact that they didn't have a critical component on a key line and or a critical person that knew how to do something. Everybody would stand around for 4 or 5 hours because they were directed to be there by the local party chief to get back to work, and then they would all go home. So they've done this 4 times over this last month. He thinks that they'll stop doing that in a month or so. And he thinks that he's calling his little area outside of Hubei province a ghost town. And he says he doesn't see people in the streets. He's no longer even stopped by checkpoints. when he has to walk to his factory. He's going to start, he's thinking, saying his phone can't get charged, so he won't have to go to the factory anymore because he thinks it's really useless. There have been no truck deliveries to any factory in his area. They're lucky because they're rural enough that they get veggies and meat through local farmers, right? And eggs and that kind of thing. They don't depend on stuff out of the big city, but they're not getting it. His expectation is that if he had everything he needed and his workforce healthy, and he doesn't even know how many of them are still alive. He hasn't seen a lot of them since this thing began over a month ago for him. Mm-hmm. But he said if he had all of that, and it might take them 4 months to clean up because 2 months of a factory sitting there with no one coming on in and no goods coming on in. He says they've actually had animals come on in, they've got to clean up. And he says, you know, the CCP is now starting to talk about decontamination. So he says if they have to do that, who knows how long that will add. But he's thinking that maybe their factory will be producing 1.5 to 2 years from now.
And I mean, I've done like 2 or 3 articles and YouTube videos on the Apple iPhone because it's a great example of you have one piece that you can't source from the 180 different countries that provide raw materials or prefab stuff, or a little tiny piece. You can't make an iPhone. And that's the, like you said, it might be, it might not have the material, or you might not have the guy who was in charge of it has left or has died or is in the hospital, and there's no one else who has that expertise to put that piece in that.
Well, the guy in the bicycle factory, the part that they don't have now are the little stems that go in the valves.
Oh yeah. And that's amazing. And literally, I mean, literally, if you think about all the pieces and parts to like a car, if you don't have something to roll down the window, you're not going to be able to make the car. Right. And that little thing came from a little province in China that's all they did is make the little widgets to roll down the window, and voila, you can't have cars without windows that roll down. I mean, obviously things will stop a long time before that.
Right. So banks and those kind of things, right? We had in the data sets along with these, and that's what I'm going on now, right? I don't have any new data. This is just old stuff. But within the data, and it appears to be manifesting, so I bring it up. Within the data sets, we had the regional bank failures that led to a giant real estate collapse globally. And so we're there now on that. We've actually even seen some of that here with some people starting to freak out and a lot of houses rushing onto the market like the last 3 days.
I've seen a ton of for sale signs. I've also seen a lot more spraying. You think they're trying to spray something on us to help us or hurt us, or what do you think that? Because I mean, the last 3 days they've been spraying every day.
You'll hear rumors out there that it's not a virus, that it relates to 5G, that if you don't have 5G, it's not going to activate in you. It's you're going to hear other people saying it's all from chemtrails, and the 5G activates the chemtrails, and they've been spraying the virus for years, and we've all got it, so don't sweat it. And that would seem to be reasonable, actually. I mean, I hate to say it, but that conspiracy theory actually does seem reasonable, that they've been spraying the virus. I don't think 5G is in any way related to this, right?
Yeah,
the 5G rollout in Milan, Kerry Cassidy and all these people that are touting the 5G stuff are just full of shit. All right, they don't read the telco industry. They don't know anything about what's going on with it. And they're just mouthing off shit that is their basic fears. 5G in no way participated in this in Wuhan because most of the 5G rollout was done in the latter part of October and totally broken by the 15th of November. They were shutting the things down because the amount of radiation coming out of them actually drew the pollution to the device. And the pollution was so intense they couldn't carry a clear signal feet, let alone the yards they needed to do it to get to the next receptor. Mm-hmm. Same thing is true of Milan, only Milan was a much smaller rollout. So, and the telcos have been bitching about 5G and the problems that they have to encounter just making it go out there. So if
it doesn't work. Every time my phone jumps to 5G, the reception is horrible. They're saying, "Oh yeah, it's overcrowded." I'm like, bullshit.
Bullshit.
How do I turn it off? They don't let you turn it off on my phone. I'm like, I gotta, find a place where it has 4G because the 5G isn't kicked in yet.
Yeah, and even when it does, like I say, it's miserable in terms of what it performs. So I'm just saying, black goo, um, free floating artificial intelligence, interdimensional beings, blue avian space critters, none of these things relate to this disease. And if you listen to these individuals, you'll end up gulping down MMS, the individual that are telling you all of this stuff. You'll end up gulping down MMS, which will cause cancer and hollow you out and kill you by weakening your system ahead of getting the bioweapon. So you need to get real with this stuff. Now let's talk about getting real. Some of the data sets that went along with the regional banking failure and the global real estate crash also talked about the entire uh, stable of global elites in the Western world getting devastated. Not 1 in 10 dying, but maybe 9 in 10 of these fuckers dying because so many of them are so old, right? And the rumors, especially on the deep web, are really interesting. So there's rumors that Tom Cruise is in quarantine because he has it, all right, because of the exposure for the Mission Impossible filming. If that's the case, then my information from doctors in Pasadena and Hollywood is correct that they're dealing with it already in people that were in crews that were on these shoots.
Yeah, and they travel all the time. They're on airplanes. They travel throughout the world.
Right, and the Pope has it now. Okay,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the rumors are that the Queen of England has it, and her husband, and all of these other people that also went and saw the Pope in these last 30 days. And there's also rumors that our political elite is literally actually shitting themselves and quaking in their boots. Many of them, the ones that have any kind of smarts at all, are now too afraid to go out of their houses and stuff. Now, so it is my expectation that most of the Democratic candidates will drop out or die over these next couple of months. And I don't know that we'll have an election. I don't know that there will be many people within the political system to vote for it. If this is the sun disease as was described in our data sets, we will first lose most of the Democratic Party. Will just kind of like dissolve, and everybody will be left wondering what's going on. There won't be an election. We'll bumble through as more and more and more of the elite die off, and other people just kind of like step in to do the work until we come through the other side of this, which is, as I say, 3 to 5 years out.
So there'll be like rolling waves where it rolls around like, so yeah, I think I remember that from the data. Say starts in China and then rolls to Europe
Around
and then
the
the US and then and then things will calm down and everybody thinks, oh, we're past it, and then it'll start up again.
Okay, this is what happens. China mobilized instantly as though it was a bioweapon. They knew from day one a bioweapon had been released. Patient zero worked in the Wuhan level 4 biolab, China's only level 4 biolab. So the very first person to get sick got sick in the biolab, not in the fucking market. Okay, so they knew it was a biolab. They mobilized as though they were going to war in a way they have never done in the past. Never, ever, ever, ever. No country has. No country has. And this is a bigger mobilization for China than the Cultural Revolution, so which altered their course for 40 or 50 years. Now we're in a situation where the global, or where the carbon footprint of China has decreased 25% in 3 weeks. I expect it'll decrease another 25% in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then maybe we'll stabilize if we're lucky. So the virus has taken out more global warming human inputs than Greta's bitching and moaning could ever do. If we'd done everything Greta wanted, we would only be at about 6% of the reduction of the USA's carbon footprint.
And we'd be bankrupt.
And we'd be bankrupt, and a lot of us would be dying anyway. But China reduced theirs by 25% in 3 weeks. Greta's plan would have us reduced to down by 6% in 3 years. So look at the impact of this. So we are truly in the worst case scenario right now. It's just that us guys here are lucky in that we have some foreknowledge and a little bit of time before it rolls over us.
Let's talk about time now. From my timeline, I was analyzing. Now this is just the financial side, not the sickness side. But I had the March or mid-April is the earnings report season and all that, but the banks will have to report huge, massive. I mean, they're all invested in China and Asia and all throughout Europe. They're going to have to report huge losses. They're going to have, but I mean, that's mid-April. But before that, they can't have a surprise like that. They're going to have to start talking about it nearing sometime in March, or they're.
No,
What do
Bix.
you think they're going to just
I
phony
think
it up?
I think that the phony falls away. I think this is a humanity level crisis. Um, I go into why I think that, but let's not deal on that. But I think that there will be a number of companies and individuals and stuff that will just say, fuck it.
Nothing I can do.
Nothing I can do now. I'm not even going to work to prepare that damn report because I will get exposed and fuck it.
There's two of the head people in the supply chain for Apple that just left last week.
Three.
I read two. Now there's three.
People. Okay. So you know about our mutual friend. I won't discuss it. Okay. I know of people that in the last 4 days have quit senior positions at tech companies. And I'm talking senior positions because these guys are my age.
And the money was rolling in. There would be no reason for them to quit.
No. Yeah, this one guy is making over $1 million a year. And he has already reserved a space for himself, his family, his pets, and his gear, all of his cargo and stuff, on a commercial or on a private jet. And he'll be leaving from Washington State this next week, early this next week.
You know, to me, it's interesting. Like some people I know who have the wherewithal to bug out are bugging out to places. I'm like, well, I don't know. Why do you think you'd be better off on this remote island in the Pacific rather than where you have friends and family around and you know that, right. It's like you can't run away from this thing, I don't think.
Correct. That's it. Okay. It is now certain that all humans at some point in their life will be exposed to it. Mm-hmm. Okay. The expectation from the people that should know, whether they're lying to us or not, I can't ascertain. But what they're saying is that maybe 60 to 70% of all the people that are exposed to it will get it. And then they go on to try and qualify it and say that of those that are exposed to it, let me see if I can do a quick calculation, 76% will have very mild symptoms, if that. Now, the problem with that statement is great. I love to hear it. It means that only 14% of the old farts like us are going to keel over. It means that if you're in your 50s and older, you're at risk, but hopefully people below that aren't at risk. But this is bullshit. The people that are dying in Iran are between late 20s and 40s.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
They're males dying at the rate of 6 to 4 to females.
There's not a lot of kids either.
No, that's the beauty part of this wave. Okay, so let me explain. The way a bioweapon is designed, it's designed to go through and take out all of the military-aged men and ancillary, any military-aged women that share high testosterone levels and thus could be considered to be combatants. So it wants to target people from 19 to 40. This one is starting to go there. The reason it is so bad to deal with a bioweapon is that these things are not opportunistic, not mutations. They're designed for a specific effect. So consider what will happen. The first wave goes through and all of the people that are susceptible, it will clear out the senior management, all the older people that have knowledge and the ability to get things done in terms of organizing. It'll also clear out all of the effective people that are your workaholics that are getting out there exposing themselves, the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, and so on. This particular class of people will be devastated, 9 out of 10 removed. So the next time it comes around, all the young people and all the people that have had it before will die because there will be no sophisticated medical system for anything. And a lot of people will die of broken bones, infections, systemic sepsis, all different kinds of stuff, because the hospital system will fail under the load and because all of the people that are the doctors and stuff will die off. So that is what we face in the future, is a huge talent wipeout that will kill many people as a follow-on in that second wave. The evil part of this virus is that people that get it once get no immunity. There is no consensus antibody being developed because of the three faces of it, right? The HIV, the MERS, and the SARS presenting each different phase or face to your body produces an antibody. But when they go and take antibodies out of a bunch of people to get the consensus antibody for this particular virus, which is how they develop a vaccine, is they find out the antibodies in your body and everything. They can't pull the antibodies, the immunoproteins out of your body and say, this one is for that virus. Doesn't work that way, right? There's no way they can specifically do that. They collect a bunch of them, spool them out of your blood, and see what it works, which virus, or which antibodies work on the virus within a petri dish environment. But they do that from a number of people to get a consensus antibody. But there isn't one being formed, because I might form an antibody that is HIV immunospecific. You might get one for MERS. Somebody else gets one for SARS. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult to pick one up. That being the case, when we come around this the second time, those people that have had it once may have an immunity to the HIV face of it, but not the SARS face. And they will have been weakened and scarred by the pneumonia. That's what's killing people now. That's what's on the rise in a huge way in a lot of these countries that refuse to report that they've got COVID, okay? They're reporting massive increases in pneumonia death. This is something we really need to talk about here, okay? Because this is how the people are actually dying. It's not shutting down your kidneys. Yeah, there's been a few multi-organ failures, but usually after the pneumonia has killed you. And so the pneumonia is twofold. Pneumonia is viral. So this thing produces a viral pneumonia in you. It starts filling up your lungs with fluid as your body reacts to and tries to kill the fucker. But what it has done ahead of that is that it's weakened your immune response to bacteria and amoebas. So at the same time you have viral pneumonia developing, you will also already, by that point, have developed bacterial pneumonia and maybe even an amoeba infestation. And so you're dying not really of the virus, but of the combination of them. You basically drown, and there's very little that they can do for you. They're trying to oxygenate your blood outside your body and all of this kind of thing. So in my way of thinking, we have to be hardening ourselves to the virus, as well as protecting ourselves against the secondary infections, which are the actual proximate cause of death. So those people that they can dampen down the viral activity on and keep the bacterial pneumonia from forming come out the other side of a serious condition. They may be scarred in their lungs and they won't have immunity, so they're going to have to really work on getting themselves well again. But they would come out of this, and then they'll have to face 11 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, another run up against this virus. And if they don't take steps to correct what's happened to them, then they will succumb at that point, because they just won't have the body capability of fighting this off.
So as far as hardening yourself, the suggestions are liposomal vitamin C?
Any fucking kind of vitamin C you can cram in. If you can get liposomal, you only, for someone my size, 170 pounds more or less, you only need to take 4 grams a day. Linus Pauling did not have that available to him when he came up with all of this stuff in the 50s and 60s, right? So he was taking between 6 and 9 grams a day of non-liposomal vitamin C. Either way to get it up there. He lived to be 91 and he was never, ever sick from his 50s. Okay. So for 40 plus years, no illness.
So also, I just want to make sure
sure,
that,
go through it.
Because I am of the opinion that we'll all get it at some point. And because I have big family and friends everywhere, I would have a real hard time locking someone out who was knocking on my door, whose family.
I'm looking at it the other way. Okay. I'm looking at it. I've got to make sure I don't infect my people that I'm going to be looking out for. Yeah, but I have that thing now. I have a sign out on my gate: no mask, no entry.
Oh, all right? Nice.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is. And everybody so far is starting to freak out around me, including the cops down in the place we were talking about earlier. because I went on in there and offered them some masks, and that freaked their asses out.
Yeah,
And they went
it's
around it.
amazing. And I was just at my parents' house last night. I'm telling them what's happening. Tell them you need to think about this. But there's not enough time to think about it. You need to act as if this is going to be a problem yesterday, because it already is. And they're older and they've got family around, but at the same time, they're starting to, because they start reading it in the paper, that's what starts to trigger them. And finally, last week, we started seeing it in the financial press and things like that. I do believe we're going to have some kind of a bailout or Fed loosening tomorrow, because the last week's stock market issues, you got Steve Mnuchin who's going to click his little mouse and make the stock market.
I don't think any of that matters.
I don't think so either.
You won't have a 401k. You won't ever be able to cash out of a bank. Our banking system is shot. If we go into a national lockdown and only suffer as bad as China, all of our political parties and all of our banking structure will collapse, and we'll have to rebuild from scratch.
And I mean, this has been the theme of the Road to River for a hell of a long time. I did not think it would come around due to this. It's very convenient for them to say, "Oh, look, it's the pandemic."
Nope, stop.
You don't think they were?
No, because that deludes you. That gets you thinking that about the conspiracies and all of that, right? And that distracts you from surviving this, right? That's what's happened to JSNIP. He's got himself off in a squirrely little part of his mind that says that this is fake because of this one little tiny bit of evidence, and because his mind is rebelling about what he's facing and the fact that he's got an infant son and everybody's so at risk and all of this, right? It is difficult as a male who's in charge of taking care of a family to take this on board, internalize it, and not freak out and hide in a catatonic state. So, but we can't say convenient. We can't say conspiracy. Who the fuck cares?
It doesn't matter.
All those people are going to die. Mnuchin is dead. Okay. Joe Biden is dead. Hillary Rodham Clinton is dead. Bill Clinton is dead. Trump is probably dead. He's standing too close to these fuckers. Pence is dead. Have you seen what's happened to the Iranian High Council? 9 of them have it now. Of the 50 people that were in the room with the Ayatollah, they're all dead.
Yeah.
They're all going to die. And I'm saying it in the past tense. It's just that they have yet to keel over for us. Okay. Tom Cruise, all of the elites are going to die. Most of the Hollywood people that have flown in the last 60 days are going to die. And those are just the ones that could die early.
But is the mortality rates? I mean, if you take the whole population and say, okay, you got the virus, I'm just going to assume everybody's going to get it at some point.
Right.
So you've got the virus, and there's certain people who will get sick, certain people will get really sick, and certain people who will die. Do you have any?
And we don't know. Here's the thing. Okay. China and all of our experts are saying 60 to 70%, so the big range there, will get it. And they're saying only 14% old farts will die. The rest will have mild conditions. Well, that's not being borne out by, they're lying. That's not what's being borne out by what's going on in Wuhan. Whole families are dying in Wuhan and have died in Hubei and all over China now. And so I expect that 70% will get it. I expect that a staggering number of males will die out of that group at a weird range of ages that are, say, 10 and above. All right, from 10 years old on up, if you're a male, you're really going to get hammered by this, and a disproportionate number of those individuals will die. A disproportionate number of them will die because they have no inbuilt defenses. So it may be that Trump, in his statement, is basically correct, that this will dampen down as our sunlight exposure increases in spring and summer, and our vitamin D levels go up. We will be less susceptible to this virus, and it will dampen down, although we'll still be dealing with it. That may actually happen. Now, a couple of things from that. That's the way seasonal flu goes away. It doesn't go away. It just goes down to really sick individuals that keep it going through summer, and then it rebursts in fall when they come out and contact the rest of us whose immune systems are weak because we're not getting sunlight. Mm-hmm. That's the whole flow, the functioning of this seasonal thing. If that is correct, take goddamn vitamin D now. All right,
How
because
much
that
do
is
you take of the vitamin D?
I take 10,000 units a day all through winter, and now I'm upping it to 15,000. You can also get 50,000 units that are good for a week. I've got some of those coming for my relatives because I can't count on them to be taking all these pills every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And also, there's some suggestion that vitamin C in giant amounts, when you get it, can help you. All right. So we need to remember this kind of thing. But in any event, so all of our elites are going to perish. The entire financial system will fall apart. And so, yeah, maybe at some point they'll do helicopter money. Who gives a rat's ass? I don't care. It
It's
won't
not
make
going
any
to put
difference.
anything on the shelves. It's not
Or
going to.
correct.
It's not
The
going to
only thing
solve
it'll do is keep the banks going because some guy got his rent check,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's all. But there's not going to be any eggs to buy, no milk, no produce and this sort of thing. Also, let me point something out. It's supposition. It's a speculation. I have some small amount of evidence for making this speculation. I have formed it as a conclusion, but I'm not certain about it, and I don't know that it's valid. Okay, so we have to understand it that way. But there seems to be a correlation between increased severity of impact on populations and the diets that those populations consume. All right, so I'll give you one example and then we can go on to something else. The Han Chinese, have vast numbers of Uyghur people, okay, Muslim herdsmen in northwest China of a different ethnic state than the Han Chinese. And they have these guys in education camps by the millions. And they're not dying, all right? These guys eat a diet that is basically kefir, goat's milk, and goat flesh, and very little vegetables and almost no carbs. Almost no carbs. So the Han Chinese, who are their prisoners, who are their guards and their jailers, are dying. But the prison camps themselves, where there should be vast numbers of people because of the unsanitary conditions, are not suffering. And there's over 1 million of these Uyghurs in re-education camps. And the Han Chinese that are their masters are dying off. And it is so bad that it's come to the attention of the CCP, and they're trying to reconcile what to do. Mm-hmm. Abandon it or send the army to take over the position of the dying guards. But they've already had, according to rumors, 2 major military mutinies.
Okay, so let's give a little summary of one: vitamin D, vitamin C, chaga mushroom, which
supreme antiviral. There is basically no better antiviral mushroom on the planet. And if you get it though, okay, right. If you get it, chaga is a preventative. It'll dampen it down. It'll help you out. If you've gotten it, then you need to go the other route. Okay, you can still take chaga. Will not hurt at all, and it'll help your immune system tremendously. But you can add to that the what's that word? It's a word that means kerosene-like. But you can add to that elderberry, huckleberry. They call them infinite berries around here. They're like goji berries. They're a long blueberry. Any of these berries that have that particular kind of like feel in your mouth, right? It strips your mouth out when you eat them. It sort of cleans your teeth and all of those kind of things. These berries produce a slickness in your lungs that is anti-pneumonia. You cough stuff up real easily and so on. And also learn to breathe all the way down into your abdomen. All right. If you're in fear, you will breathe in the top half of your lungs all the time. Short, shallow breaths. This is why your lungs would then fill up with stuff to cause pneumonia in the lower half. So make a point of forming a habit at least once every hour of a minute of deep breaths where you expand the abdomen and get the air all the way down. And then
it's the oxygen
and then expel it.
You lose, right?
Right. So you want to get rid of all of any potential for any of the stuff to accumulate in your stomach. You can actually, in the Middle Ages, they actually, when they encountered people with pneumonia, it wasn't always successful, but even in severe cases, they could mechanically, basically bash the body and force the guy to be able to cough it up.
Hmm.
There's also Usnea. That's a lichen. Okay, we have that lichen growing all over the northwest coast here. You can get this lichen off the trees, brush off any bugs or anything, and you can wash it. And then you can make a tea out of it, and it goes sort of gelatinous. It's full of vitamin C. It's full of all kinds of vitamins, and it's a huge expectorant. Okay, you can also buy it online. Probably not many people are getting it, so there should be still supply. Usnea. Okay, and it's a lichen, and it's green and sort of stringy, like like little noodles or something. Okay. And it turns into this gelatinous, yucky kind of a soup. But I was out working out in the woods once, was out there for 3 or 4 days, had a terrible case of flu, and a local Indian guy made me some of that. I was back cutting and setting choke chains and working and stuff 3 hours later. Coughed up everything, and I was just lying there in a fever and the whole thing when I took it. So I was quite impressed with it, and it gives you a slickness, this weird feeling in your lungs that everything is slick and smooth, and boy, when you cough stuff up, you cough stuff up.
So also the other thing on my list is C60.
Yeah.
Is that just continuous before, during, after?
Every day you just take your regular dose of it. Here's the thing about it. If you take C60, I've noticed those people I've given the C60 to just don't get regular flu. They just don't get sick. They go year after year. I've not had regular flu in so long, I just don't remember it. But people that take the C60, they don't get the regular flu, and the C60 is antiviral in the way in which it deals with the clean out of all of the stuff in the cells. So as part of the process of the virus replicating in your cell, it produces a lot of oxidative residue. And that oxidative residue waste is cleaned out by the C60, which in the process interrupts the virus in its glomming onto your protease and telling your cell to recreate it. And that's why chaga mushroom works. Chaga mushroom makes your cell's protease not effective for the virus to reproduce in, because it dampens down the protease that would allow the HIV to replicate. And this, I think, and scientists can go in and they'll backfill me on this, but I think this is the weakness of the virus. It's its strength because it presents one face to you, or another face, or a third face, so your body doesn't know what to build a defense against. However, if you get something off the shelf, so to speak, an herbal that would prevent any of those three faces from getting protease to replicate, then the whole virus is eaten up by your white cells and dies. So chaga dampens down the ability of the body to produce protease that allows HIV to replicate. Ergo, coronavirus with an HIV inclusion in its envelope that creates an HIV-like signature that demands an HIV-like protease can't replicate.
Yeah. So what dosage of
no more than a gram a day for somebody our size. Okay, no more than a gram a day for any adult, because it builds up oxalates and can shut down your kidneys. All right, give you kidney stones and stuff. Right. For kids, you've got to be really careful on any and all mushrooms, especially the medicinals for kids. What I recommend is that you take the chaga powder or a capsule and take the powder out and make a cup of tea, and then dilute that cup of tea in half with water, and then take out a tablespoon and give it to the child.
Okay. And
then 4 or 5 or 6 hours later, if there's no effect, no skin issues or any kind of an allergy kind of a thing, give them another one. And then build it up to where they can take if they're like, say, 50 pounds, they should be able to consume half to a full cup of regular non-concentrated chaga tea a day. If they're under 50 pounds, you'll be dealing with it in terms of tablespoons a day, but it's very, very, very potent. So a tablespoon a day in a small kid is going to be more effective than a gram a day in me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. On a final note, can you give us kind of, I know it's almost impossible to do, but over the next 6 months, how do you see in the US, how do you see this rolling out? Is next week, every week's going to get worse in my book?
Okay.
When do you see, first of all, the US is going to have to deal with this as a bigger problem at some point. And as more now, you're seeing more and more cases being discovered. Are we talking from your point of view on the spreading of the virus and the social side of it, the recognition that this is a bigger problem than what they're telling you? Are we talking weeks, months, or 6 months?
I hope we have weeks. I hope we have weeks. The sooner we realize it's a bioweapon and start dealing with it that way as adults, the sooner we can get over and beyond this, okay? But absent that, on March 6th, we start entering into the severe shortage stage, and that's just the beginning of it on March 6th.
And that's because China has shut down shipping for the last 2 months.
Exactly. We're already there now with a lot of medicines. A lot of medicines simply are not available now because their key components ran out a month ago because the Chinese stopped shipping them a month before that. Mm-hmm. So the severe shortages start in on March 6th. At some point, those shortages will impact officialdom, whether it impacts the officialdom at a personal level in their daily life or whatever. They will escalate it at that point to a greater level of crisis. But how long it will take them to escalate it from the first of the shortages to bioweapon, I don't know. But during that period of time, we can expect it will get continuously worse, probably doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling kind of thing, until we stand up one day and say, it's a fucking bioweapon, let's get real and deal with it. And at that stage, you can expect a lot of social blowback. That'll probably waste a whole week of thrashing around. As maybe,
and then martial law will kick in
correct,
at some point.
Correct, all of that. But we need it, okay? That's why we have to be adult about this. We have to say that, yeah, I've got rights, but my rights don't mean squat to me if my rights kill my family, or I die because I'm insisting on being righteous when I need to be practical. Right? And so for me, this is practicality. Now, I lived through the Berlin airlift, all right? So I've seen mass social responses to what was then a political crisis. We need to have that Berlin airlift mindset now for ourselves.
See, the problem for that, people are so divided on the politics side, which doesn't mean anything. But if Trump says something, that the Democrats are going to instantly say, no, you're just blowing it out of proportion, or vice versa. People will tend to do what their tribe says to do.
But
so
that won't matter, okay? Because we look at it this way. I can tell you right now, definitively, tomorrow is March 1. By the end of March, by March 31, politics will not matter. There will be so many in the senior Democratic elite that are quarantined, dead, ill, or self-isolating, that they won't even pop up to say squat. Mm-hmm. Okay, all of the major MSM, all the major media, TV media will, I don't want to say they're shut down, but all the faces will go away. Mm-hmm. Everybody, the Don Lemons, any person you care to name will be absent from TV. They will not dare go into a studio. They will not dare walk out of their apartment to go and do anything in terms of a
on-site
public appearance, anything at all. And they will actually be dying at a faster rate than the elites. But it is because of the MSM and because they were the interface into the elites that those two whole cohorts are going to pass away. I've been desperately trying for a long time to get Joe Rogan's attention so that he will not do this comedy show, so that he will not put his family and stuff at risk and give all these other people in these big crowds and put them at risk. We have to change our whole social order for probably 3 to 5 years. No public, any damn thing. 2 people gathering,
I mean, in that scenario, I can see it now. People, locking their doors and hunkering down. Will the internet infrastructure still be in place so that we can spread information? How much?
That will be the major, in my opinion, that will be the major priority of the civil service. They will do a couple of things diligently, even unto the point of heroism. They will attempt to keep electricity on. They will attempt to keep sewage and water working. They will attempt to keep whatever foods are available flowing. We're lucky here in the U.S. We'll stop eating all of these carbo sugar things and we'll go to real food, but we can produce that here. Okay, so we're going to have to ship because we've gotten into this long haul distribution shit, and that'll have to go away just because of contamination issues,
right,
beyond anything else. But we can recover from that part of it. Many nations will find it very difficult. There will be starvation throughout the world as many farmers are shut down, distribution systems break down. Bear in mind, we're only basically 2 months into this. Really 4 if you count when it was released on October 19th in Wuhan when patient 1 or 0 came out of that lab, okay? But even at 4 months, we're looking at something that may affect us for 100 years. So we're in the first 4 months.
When I asked you to give a little talk to the at the Litecoin Summit, and we were talking about the future, I just went back and looked at that again. I'm like, holy crap! And I asked you, and kind of jokingly, hey, will we survive this? And you're like, to be determined. And so I've been going back and watching that. You know, the year 0 you were talking about. This is turning into exactly what you're saying. Clif, I got it right again. But to live through it, you know, for a long time. You all right, man?
I'm sorry, Bix. I didn't want to be right.
I know. But you being right has saved a lot of people, and I this information needs to get out there as well.
I'll see you.
Okay. Take care.